Krishna Padam Sagana Lalita Sri Vishakhanitanscha Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhar Sivasadi Gaura Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhar Sivasadi Gaura Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhar Srivasadi Gaur Bhakta Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Rama Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna.
Hare Krishna devotees, the devotees from the temple, they are logging in. The class will start shortly. Kindly be with us. Hare Krishna. Vandavad Pranam.
Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna,
Hare Krishna. Om Ajnanatimirandasya Jnananjanashalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Shri Chaitanya Manobishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadadi Swapadandikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Guru Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunatanvitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padam Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakanvitam He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandho Jahatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Rishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Haripriye Vancha Kalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya eva cha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Namo Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prestaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swaminiti Namine Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschata Desatarine Namah Vadanyaya Krishna Prema Pradayate Krishnaya Krishna Chaitanyaya Namne Gauratushe Namaha Namo Brahmanya Devaya O Brahmana Hitaya Cha Jagaditaya Krishnaya Govindaya Namo Namah Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. This is on. So I log out here. Okay, Hare Krishna. So yesterday we had a wonderful festival. Lots of dancing, huh? Extended dancing. Okay. So today I've been asked to speak on Rupa Siksha, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's instruction to Rupa Goswami. So we'll talk about two topics today. One is Mahaprabhu's instruction to Rupa Goswami, especially focusing on the Bhakti Lata Bija. And then we'll also talk about the Vaishnava Aparadh, which can cause difficulties to Bhakti Lata Bija. Right? So we'll try to cover both these topics. Now it's 8:25. So we'll see how much we can. I'll probably go till 9:10, something like that. Okay. So we'll see how much we can cover. So we'll just take a quick glance about the life of Rupa Goswami. Rupa Goswami and Sanatana Goswami brothers, they first took their, I'll make it very brief and short because we'll go to the subject. Huh? So they were brothers and they first met Mahaprabhu in Ramkeli. So after that, the desire to surrender, immediately quit their governmental positions and to join Mahaprabhu was very strong. So they made their plans. Rupa Goswami had large quantities of money, so he divided them into 4 portions. So 3 portions he gave it away in service of Vaishnavas, relatives, whoever it may be. The next 25% of the portion of his money he kept for himself for emergency use. And he was probably expecting some sort of legal complication and said, okay, let me have this in emergency. He also deposited about 10,000 coins with a grocer so that Sanatan, when he comes, he would need that money because both were under the clutches of Nawab Hussain Shah. So anticipating Rupa Goswami made all this arrangement. Rupa Goswami sent a couple of people to check when Mahaprabhu is going to go to Vrindavan from Jagannath Puri. He was about to cross Jarikan forest. So when the news came along with his brother, Sri Vallabh, who was also called as Anupam Malik. So both of them, they quit and they were heading towards to meet Mahaprabhu. They sent a message to Sanatan. So at the time, Sanatan was finding a way out to quit or come out of the clutches of Nawab Hussain Shah. So what did he do? He said, "Oh, I'm unwell. And you take some rest." So he took a medical leave. And medical leave, what was he doing? He was doing bhakti. He was doing Bhagavatam. He was studying Bhagavatam and he was trying to do as much as Shravanam and Kirtanam. But somehow, this Nawab, he smelt it. So what did he do? He came in search of Sanatan in his house and got hold of him. Said, "Hey, you're cheating. You're violating. Your services are so much recovered in the administration, but you are sitting here and then reading spiritual books." So what did he do? He didn't even hear him much. He called to arrest him. Of course, the story goes deeper, and Sanatan finds his own way by giving away all the money that he had, and then he escapes and he joins. Okay, so both Sanatan and Rupa Goswami, they meet Mahaprabhu at Prayag. So after meeting in Prayag, the focus is now on Rupa Goswami. So Mahaprabhu, he introduces few other devotees to Rupa Goswami. So one, he introduces the Vallabh Bhattacharya. Then he talks about himself. But actually Mahaprabhu is trying to teach Vallabh Bhattacharya how a qualified devotee like Rupa Goswami is far superior than devotees who are focused on the scriptural aspects of Vedic injunction. Right? So the message there is very clear. Devotion to Lord is far superior, irrespective of their background, than practicing anything else. Vedaischa sarvais ahameva vedyam. So that's realization that needs to come. So after that, Mahaprabhu also introduces Raghunath Upadhyaya, a great Brahmana. He's also a great scholar. But his understanding on this entire devotion process was very clear. So Mahaprabhu asks him a few questions. And he gives very, very conclusive answers. Very, very similar answers to what Raghunath Das Goswami gave. So Mahaprabhu was very pleased. And, the focus changes to Rupa Goswami, where Mahaprabhu is going to give instructions to him for 10 days in Dasashvamedha Ghat. Okay, so before these instructions, we will understand a little bit about Rupa Goswami. So then we'll know what sort of personality we are discussing here. So this is the chapter 19 of Madhya Leela, Chaitanya Charitamrita. So we'll hear this. This is a text one. Vrindavaniyam rashakeli vartham kalena loptam nijashaktim muktaha sancharya rupe yatanot punahassa prabhur vidau pragivo loka srishtim. So this is the first sloka that starts in this chapter. Kaviraj Goswami writes this. He's trying to tell the first text. Anyway, this is just a reference. The first text in that. So what Lord is trying to tell, Kaviraj Goswami is writing is, this creation, maintenance and destruction is a cycle that's continuously going on. It's created, stays for some time and then destructed. So he's taking the example of what happens to Lord Brahmaji. So Brahmaji plays the role of creation. There is some maintenance and then destruction. So like that, over time, you see things are lost. So similarly, the pastimes of Raj, the sweetness, the mellows of Raj also get lost in memory. So Mahaprabhu takes this opportunity again to initiate the mood of Raj and speak about the glories of Raj to Rupa Goswami. So you can understand that as time progresses, right, we have to see that this devotional aspects must be maintained in a constant manner. So, hence Mahaprabhu comes and teaches these details to Rupa Goswami. So, what does he teach? He teaches four things: Krishna Tattva, Bhakti Tattva, Rasa Tattva, Pranta. So, what is Krishna Tattva? All about, the Lord, the creation, the every aspects, all about everything about Krishna Tattva. Then Bhakti Tattva, devotion to the Lord, different dimensions of devotion. Then Rasa Tattva, exchange of relationship with the Lord. So he detailedly teaches about all these things to Rupa Goswami. And that's how he begins this 10 days of discussion with Rupa Goswami. So Mahaprabhu says, it is important to understand the conjugal love of Radha and Krishna. And how can you understand the conjugal love of Radha and Krishna? He concludes the ending point of Srimad Bhagavatam. And he gives that nectar to Rupa Goswami. Sri Rupa Hridaye Prabhu Shakti Sancharile Sarva Tattva Nirupane Pravina Karile. By entering the heart of Rupa Goswami, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu empowered him to ascertain properly the conclusions of all the truths. He made him an experienced devotee whose decisions correctly agreed with the verdict of disciplic succession. Thus, Sri Rupa Goswami was personally empowered by Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Now, what else you can ask for if you're going to get an empowerment of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu in one's life? So, the life of Rupa Goswami, if you see, it was really very, very attractive. People of Vrindavan, just like how they used to ask, where is Radha Shyam Sundar? Where is Radha Madan Mohan? So like that, they'll also ask, where are these great personalities, Rupa and Sanatana? That much they were attractive. They were very, very simple in their life. They did not even have a house. They used to live under the trees, all the time writing scriptures, Shravanam and Kirtanam. In a day of 24 hours, 22 and a half hours is what they would practice Krishna Bhakti. And 1.5 hours he would retire, rest, or even take bath or sleep or anything like that. That's the mood of Rupa Goswami. And he used to eat just some dry bread and maybe some chickpeas for a small quantity. And that's how they led their life. They would go from house to house, take some small menial service, and they continued their services on Radha Krishna. And Rupa Goswami wrote so many books. And all those books were, a lot of them were focused on the conjugal, the Madhurya Ras, the conjugal loving relationship between Radha and Krishna. So, when Lord empowered Rupa Goswami also comes with a background. What was his background? He is Rupa Manjari. And he was an intimate servant to Srimati Radharani. So, there is a history behind the greatness of Prabhu Goswami, and he was able to practice bhakti in that manner. Once Mahaprabhu empowered him, he was able to conclude all the details of the Vedic scriptures. He was able to write down. And Mahaprabhu went on to write many, many, many books after. Rupa Goswami started to write many, many books based on the empowerment of Mahaprabhu. So, this is a confirmation. What confirmation does this give? Krishna Shakti Veena Nahi Tare Pravartana. So, what does this mean? It means, if we get the empowerment of the Lord, our life also changes. So, how do we get empowerment of the Lord? We get empowerment of the Lord through our Guru. So, service to Guru, loving service to the Lord in a parallel track will help us to receive that empowerment. And that empowerment is what makes us to sweet or taste the sweetness of devotional service. So what does Krishna say? When the empowerment happens, the Bhagavad Gita he speaks, 10.10. Kesam satata yuktanam bhajattam priti purvakam tadami buddhi yogam tam. So he gives that knowledge. He gives everything that one needs, that he can spread Krishna Bhakti to any number of souls, wherever it is possible. That is the power of an empowerment. Hence, Rupa Goswami was empowered. And he is able to write such wonderful literatures. Prabhupada writes, a pure devotee of the Lord doesn't identify himself with the body. He is beyond the bodily concepts of life. So we should also not identify him from his body, his bodily complexion and his birth. Because if you look at Rupa Goswami, his life was so simple. And he used to wear clothes that had holes on the cloth, right? So if we see with the material eyes, we'll see Rupa Goswami as a poor man. But if you see with devotional eyes, you'll see as an exalted personality. Prabhupada begins describing that Shuddha Bhakti is performed only in a liberated state. So unless Rupa is liberated, there is no way that he will explain and perform Shuddha Bhakti. When one performs unalloyed devotion service, which is transcendental to the activities of the body and mind, such as jnana and karma, one is called a pure devotee. Such pure devotees of the Lord are not subject to material conditions. So this is how transcendentalists differ from materialist. Okay. So now we will go to the details of the Siksha. What Mahaprabhu taught Rupa Goswami, or what he instructed Rupa Goswami. So Mahaprabhu starts with the first sloka that he talks about this Brahmanda, how unlimited this Brahmanda is. Right? He says there are unlimited universes, and within each universes there are unlimited number of living entities. And he categorizes these living entities first as innate and non-innate. That means living and non-living, or moving and non-moving, right? So non-moving living entities are, he says, like trees, which don't move. And also he says stones, right, which has life. And other living entities are moving living entities, like aquatics, like reptiles, mammals, birds. Like that he says, there are two categories of living entities. And within this category of entities, living entities that are moving, he says there is continuous progression in consciousness. So Mahaprabhu totally categorizes, saying that there are totally 84 lakhs or 8.4 million varieties of living entities. Here, varieties of living entities means varieties of the bodies that they possess. And each of these bodies, these living entities, Sri Sri Jagannath Baldev Prabhupada. So as stated in Vishnu Purana, Jalaja Navalakshani Stavara Laksha Vimshati. So it starts from aquatics. There are about 9 lakh entities in the aquatic families. That means there are 9 lakh different varieties of bodies in the aquatics. So like that he goes on then says there are the insect varieties, then bodies which come under the reptile families, then bodies come under the birds families, then bodies comes under the mammals, and then finally about the human type of creations. He says all are categorized under this 84 lakhs. Now, what is special is when Lord created all these different kinds of bodies, the Lord was not all pleased because none of these living entities, that is the Jivatma, encapsulated into these kinds of varieties of body, they can ever realize God. They can ever practice bhakti and realize God. So hence, Lord created the human body by which a Jivatma or a living entity can reside in this body. But the best aspect of this body is it gives them an opportunity to realize God, practice its loving relationship with Lord, and then attain the supremost destination. So, you see, the human form of the body is very, very important. It is the only form of the body that has the sixth sense to ability to realize the Supreme Creator. Okay. Now, after creating all kinds of bodies, if you look at, we'll go to more detailness within the human bodies. Within the human body, which are 4 lakhs of species, 4 lakhs of varieties, starting from the demigods, right, to the lowest of the uncivilized human beings. You see, there are 2 kinds of personalities. One is the atheist, one is the theist, who is assuming that there is someone supreme, there is a creator, and there's an atheist who defy the presence of a supreme personality. Okay, so you see there is a division already, and within this division of theist who accept someone supreme, you see there are only very few people who abide to the scriptures, the Vedic, accepting Vedic Shastras, but the rest they don't. They are into more philanthropic in nature, and then they do all other things. Now, within the branch of people who accept the Vedic scriptures, you see, many of them are in fruitive mentality. That means they use the Veda Shastra to get benefit for themselves. Okay? So within the Veda Shastra, again, we are dividing. Who go after fruitive aspect of the Veda Shastra, and one who's looking at, hey, what is the supreme goal? Now, within that, who is looking to search for the supreme truth, that set of people, there are again one set of people who follow this aspect of dharma, artha, kama, and moksha. And there's another set of people who are looking for selfless service. So within the selfless service of devotees, so-called devotees, right, they're again diverted into many, many varieties of worship, of demigod worship versus non-demigod worship, or worship of Vishnu and things like that. So within this worship of Vishnu, outside of demigod worship, you see, it narrows down so much. There are only very, very few sets of people. And Mahaprabhu concludes that hardly anyone knows me in reality. So that means someone who's practicing Krishna Bhakti, who knows about Radha and Krishna, who knows about his relationship with Radha and Krishna, who is aware of his aims and goals of life, and surrenders to a spiritual master to practice that bhakti, is a very, very rare soul. Okay? So that is the opportunity that one gets who's able to practice bhakti. Now, what should one do if he gets into that bhakti platform? You should think, or you should understand that is the greatest gift that he ever got, and hold on to it close to his heart, and complete this journey of human form of life. And that's intelligence, right? So Mahaprabhu says, he says, Najayate mriyate va kadachin nayam bhutva bhavita va na bhoyo ajo nitya shashvato yam purano nahanyate anyaman sharire. He says that living entity who's able to come to this point to realize me or to realize the Supreme is actually a very minor spark. Even though he's a minor spark, he's part of me. And the characteristics of that person, that spark, is fixed. So Mahaprabhu goes on to specify that the details of that minor spark, so which you must have read in the second chapter of the Gita, right? The soul cannot be cut, transformed, mutated, any of those factors. So Mahaprabhu is concluding two minor points. The living entity is part and parcel of the Lord. He is qualitatively one with the Lord. But due to his association with material nature, he's constantly taking different forms among the 84 lakh species, and constantly time immemorial is present in this material world. Right? So that's the teaching he is giving here. Muktanam api siddhanam narayana parayanaha sudurlabha prashantatma. He says, why does he say this? He says, out of these many of these souls, who can be in peace and happiness? And that's the detail Mahaprabhu is giving here to Rupa Goswami. Who can be in happiness and detail? One who is realized and who is in service of Radha and Krishna is considered, which he says, he's Muktanam api siddhanam. So that personality is so rare. And to realize such a personality, somewhere that mercy must be existing. Otherwise, it is not possible. And when he realizes, that devotee is completely satisfied and he is peaceful. So you must have heard this most famous verse. Brahmanda Brahmite Kona Bhagyavan Jiva Guru Prasade Paya Bhakti Lata Bija. So this living entity, this spark of living entity, when he gets this human body, and he gets this human body after being born several times, that means there are 4 lakh types of human bodies. After being born several times, he gets one body which is favorable for devotion service, and he is able to practice devotion. Somewhere due to his Ajnata Sukriti, due to some Sukriti, he is able to come in association of a Guru, and he takes shelter of a Guru. Now, imagine yourself in an elevator, right? So this elevator which travels in a building, it's got thousands and thousands of floors. So each of these floor is giving you one sort of an experience, right? So for example, animals or aquatics in water, they get water experience, like deep water, like experiencing coral, experiencing so many things underwater, right? For example, a bird family, he experiences, flying high, always flying. So like that, you see, 84 varieties of experiences, 84 lakh varieties of experience has been given, and you put in an elevator, you get on an elevator, you experience that. Again, you get into elevator, you're going up and down. So all the time, this living entity is an elevator crossing floors either in the upper planetary system or in the middle planetary system or in the lower planetary system. So he is not getting opportunity to come out of this elevator. By practice of devotion, by the mercy of Supreme Lord Krishna, one gets an opportunity to reach the Goloka planets. So that's what Mahaprabhu is trying to tell here. And how does he get that? He gets that through a Guru. So what is the role of a Guru here? The role of a Guru is somehow connect you back to Krishna, right? He teaches you various methods and rules and regulations, how you can connect back to Krishna. Mahaprabhu is saying this devotional service, that means one connecting back to Krishna, is dormant in one's heart. So what is dormant? Dormant means, I was awake, I was aware of everything, I was doing some things. And I suddenly got into sleep. I'm sleeping for days and ages and years, not getting up at all. Your family members may be coming and waking up, but you're not getting up. Why? You're dormant asleep. So like that, this bhakti, which is the awakening of the soul, is dormant in our hearts. We're not able to realize it. So by practice of this devotion, we come out of the state of dormancy. That's what Mahaprabhu is trying to tell you. So hence he says that each of you should become a Mali. Right? So what is a Mali? Mali is a gardener. Right? Now, what does a gardener do? A gardener buys seeds, prepares the land very nicely, and then puts the seed into the soil. The soil is filled with a lot of nutrition and fertilizers for the seed to grow very nicely. So Mali prepares his heart, his consciousness. And once the Mali is ready with the soil, he needs a seed. So that seed is called Bhakti Lata Bija. So why is that word Bija used? Bija means it is a foundation platform. It's a starting point. Without the seeds present, you cannot imagine any plantation in your farm. You can imagine so many things, but nothing can grow without that seed. The seed becomes a foundation. Once the seed sprouts, then all your farming activities can happen. Hence, seed becomes the foundational aspect. So then he says, the seed of bhakti, so it can be called bhakti bija, but he uses the word bhakti lata bija to tell this plant that sprouts out of the seed will grow forever, continuously keep growing, non-stop. It can grow. So that means it's not a tree. So bhakti cannot be a tree. Bhakti can only be a creeper. A creeper is the one that keeps growing. So hence the bhakti lata bija is the most important ingredient for someone in their life to begin their devotional aspect. So where do you get this bhakti lata bija? From Guru. So by serving, menially serving the Guru, one gets the bhakti lata bija. Now what does the farmer, the Mali, do? He puts this bija into the soil, which is nicely prepared. And what do you need? You need to pour water. Is water enough to grow a plant? What else you need? Sunlight, right? So you need sunlight and watering. When this sunlight and watering is nourished regularly on the seed, then the seed sprouts and starts to grow. So sunlight and water is equated to Shravanam and Kirtanam. So when a devotion is practiced by hearing and chanting on a regular basis on the glories and pastimes of the Lord, then bhakti nurtures in his heart and it manifests as a nice creeper. So how beautiful this creeper is. So this creeper constantly grows. As you hear Shravanam and Kirtanam, as you pour water and expose sunlight to the seed of bhakti, the creeper of bhakti keeps on growing. And how long it goes? It grows and grows and crosses all the boundaries of this universe. It crosses this universe, crosses the Brahmaloka, and it crosses the Brahmanda. And finally reaches the greatest destination, the Goloka Vrindavan. So the Mali is so careful in very nicely growing this creeper until it reaches the Vrindavan, the Golok Vrindavan planet, and falls at the lotus feet of the Supreme Lord Krishna. Krishna said, Kaviraj Goswami says, Malihana kare se bija aropana, Shravana kirtana jale kareye sechana. When a person receives seed of devotional service, he should take care of it by becoming a gardener, sowing the seed in his heart. If you water the seed gradually by process of Shravana and Kirtana, the seed will begin to sprout. Now, while this creeper has reached the lotus feet of Krishna, does it mean that we've reached the end of it? No. Once it reaches the lotus feet of Krishna in Vrindavan or Goloka, we continue to practice bhakti by the process of Shravanam and Kirtanam. When we practice Shravanam and Kirtanam again, this creeper grows more stronger, more longer, and it produces the fruit. So that fruit is love of Godhead, the Krishna prema. So devotees are yearning for that fruit. So by practice of devotion, this fruit ripens and it falls into the mouth of that devotee, and he enjoys the rasa of prema, the prema rasa, the love of Godhead. And that is when he realizes the relishes the real love of Godhead. Until then, the relishing of love of Godhead is not yet happened, where he continues to practice bhakti. Kaviraj Goswami writes, Yadi Vaishnava aparadevute hati mata upadeva chinde tara sukhiya pata. So what does it mean? It says, while this process is time consuming, it goes on, the Mali has to be very careful in guarding his creeper. So he's a very, very wonderful gardener. He's got many creepers like that. So this creeper, he needs to very carefully grow them. Now, while growing them, what are the possibilities that it could damage the creeper? You can have a goat that comes in, that bites all the leaves. The specialty of a goat is it can eat any leaf it sees. There's no distinguishing. That's the only animal that can eat all the leaves. So goat can come, nicely chew all the leaves of this creeper and damage the creeper very heavily. Or sometimes you have a big animal like an elephant that comes and tramples over this place, then cause damage to this creeper. And more worse than that is a mad elephant. It can come, not just damage the creeper, but it can uproot the creeper, and forever it can cause death to this creeper. There's no more bhakti. That's it, all gone. Finished. Story over. So, this creeper that is being grown nicely needs to be fenced. If it is not fenced, you're going to have intruders. And that intruder is very, very expensive, because one has spent his entire life in growing this creeper. And for a very, very small fraction of time, you can destroy this creeper. So this creeper is called the Vaishnava Aparad. Tanera charana sevi bhakti sanevas janme janme hoy yeya bilash. So Narottam Das Thakur stresses the importance of Vaishnava Seva, an association of devotees, and serving the acharyas. If you don't do this, then the tendency to commit the Vaishnava offense keeps on growing in our heart. And that is very dangerous, because it completely devastates this bhakti creeper in our heart. So how do you defend? How do you defend yourself? One is to have a good sadhana at all points in time. Take every opportunity to serve your guru, both Vapu and Vani. And always practice the aspects of being humble, being tolerant, always give respect to others. So, by being aware of the offensive nature, the 10 offenses that are being taught, one can nicely guard his garden, his creeper of Bhakti Lata. If he doesn't do this, then it is vulnerable to get offensive. Now, one side is the offense of Vaishnava Aparad, which is very dangerous. So we'll talk about more details with examples what happened to people. The other side, Mahaprabhu is trying to tell, while you grow by pouring water and nice fertigation to your plants, what could grow? The other weeds could also grow. So Mahaprabhu is trying to say that these weeds that can grow along with your plant, there are four kinds in nature. The first one is called the Kutinati behavior. Kutinati means duplicity, right? So talking in front of a devotee in a one manner, but actually you're meaning something else within and trying to be a different personality outside, called duplicity or diplomatic, they would say. So one of the key aspects of devotion service is to be straightforward. One has to be straightforward in practice of devotion. You have to speak what is there in your heart. You cannot be very diplomatic in while you're speaking. So this must be avoided. So this is a weed. This weed will grow faster than your bhakti creeper. Otherwise, you will not be able to even differentiate. Oh, you may be thinking my bhakti is growing, but actually a weed is growing much stronger. Okay. The second is what is called as the animal killing. So the word Mahaprabhu uses called Jiva Himsa. So Jiva Himsa does not mean just killing another animal for sense gratification. It also includes killing our own self. That means suicide. This is prohibited. How can you use these hands to kill something and use the same hands to practice devotion and offer yourself in service of the Lord? Impossible, it contradicts. Killing someone is tamoguna, and practice of devotion is either shuddha guna or or mode of goodness or shuddha satvika. It conflicts. You cannot do both. So you have to let go this practice. So that's a second creeper. The first creeper we talked about is duplicity. The second creeper is animal killing, jiva himsa. The third is able to follow the regulative principles, the four regulative principles. The following of the four regulative principles must be unconditional. At all points in time, they must be able to practice it. Yeah, that's the third variety of the weed. And what's the fourth variety of the weed? It constitutes of whatever we read in Sikshashtakam, Trinada Pisani Chena, Tarora Pisahisna. So things like humility, tolerance, always expecting praise and respect. Oh, you didn't praise me? That's it. I'll become Durvasa Muni. You didn't give me respect to me? That's it. So devotees go into the mood of, what is called revenge when something is not being offered to them. Or having too much of thought process on material opulence, position, material opulence. I want this, I want that. So all these four kinds of weeds, they would grow along with your bhakti lata. And the beauty is, the illusion works in such a manner that one will never be able to distinguish between the original creeper and the falsifying creeper. And both would grow in a very intensive manner. And that would cause hindrance to our practice of bhakti. So Mahaprabhu is clearly differentiating these four creepers. So how do we avoid these things? Is about our desire to be very careful about rules and regulations, right? The best example I can give is Mother Sita not able to cross or able to cross the Lakshman Rekha, right? So when Lakshmana, drew that Lakshman Rekha, what is the condition? That as far as you're within this boundary condition, there's nothing that can harm you. Moment you're going to cross this Lakshman Rekha, for whatever may be the reason, maybe something is attractive that you want to cross, or maybe you forgot, or someone misguided, no problem. Then the illusion of Ravana will come and grab you. So that is very important for us to understand. So while we practice devotion, it is important to follow the regulative principles and the framework given by our spiritual master. How do I deal with materialists? How do I deal with such a situation? So we always need to consult with our spiritual master and practice devotion accordingly. Moment a devotee spots an unwanted creeper growing in his garden, what you should do? You should cut it. Cut it or uproot it so it doesn't grow again. If he says it is okay, maybe I'll wait for some time, then what will happen? You will see this unwanted creeper grows much bigger than your bhakti creeper, and your bhakti starts to die. And that is when you feel, nowadays I don't feel so enthusiastic as I was in the past. It's a Bhagavatam class, right? It's okay. One class I miss. So what? So we start to become very callous and we start giving excuses in our practice of devotion. And the ruchi that we experience in our chanting also starts to come down. Right? When does this happen? When the unwanted creepers start to grow stronger than your bhakti lata. So Mahaprabhu is warning the devotees how they should be careful. And he also says, what are the characteristics of Shuddha Bhakti? Shuddha Bhakti characteristics are like steady state, bhakti practiced in a very, very steady state manner, will lead to higher and higher status of ruchi and bhava and prema and all those things. So he says, steady state practice of bhakti means just like how rivers, he takes the example of a Ganges river, throughout the year, all the time, 24 hours in a day, steadily Ganges river flows into the ocean non-stop under all conditions. He says that must be the steady state in our thought process and consciousness while practicing bhakti. And Mahaprabhu concludes, one who practices bhakti in such a manner, for sure he achieves love of Godhead. Otherwise, love of Godhead either may get delayed or get postponed. So if someone asks Prabhupada, is this so complicated? No, it is, bhakti is simple. Bhakti is simple. But it needs two things. One, it needs patience and the mercy of Guru. If it is applied in the right manner, then bhakti is becoming very simple. Otherwise, we will see bhakti as a burden for us. Oh, I should do this. Oh, should I get up in the morning and chant? Should I get up and perform arati? Should I do this? Should I do that? Everything will become a question mark. Because we will not see bhakti as something relishing, but we see bhakti as a burden for ourselves. And he says, what will be the characteristics of first class devotee? Anna bilashita shunnam, jnana karma adi anavritam. So one who's devoid of jnana and karma. And he always prioritizes practice of devotion on a higher platform compared to anything else. Then he says, bhakti, such a bhakti is very, very favorable. And he guarantees pure devotion. So that is very, very important to understand. In practice is very difficult. I'll talk about this pastime of Mother Sita. When Mother Sita was in Ashokavan, in the camp of Ravana's kingdom, it was very easy for Hanuman to go reach out to her and carry her back to camp of Lord Ram. When Hanuman said so, Mother Sita said, no, I would not want to come with you. The only reason is, if I take your shelter to reach my Lord, then I am lowering my position of my Lord, and my surrender to my Lord, even by an iota, will come down, which I never want to do. That means her point about her understanding about the Lord and the position of the Lord, and her point about prioritizing is very, very important and clear. Otherwise, it was very easy for her to come with Hanuman and then say, okay, I've escaped myself and I've come and reached you. At any point in time, she did not want that anyone to lower the position of the Supreme Lord. Then, Mahaprabhu goes on to talk about these 5 rasas and 7 secondary rasas. So here, rasas, he uses the word rati. So rati is called love of Godhead. Love of Godhead is called rati. And in experiencing that love of Godhead is a rasa. So that's the difference between rati and rasa. So technically, these 5 rasas should be called as 5 ratis, right? Shantarati, Dashyarati, Sakhyarasi, Vatsalyarati, and Madhuryarati. He goes on to explain the details of the 5 rasas and 7 secondary rasas. So we'll not go spend time on the details of those rasas, but I'll just explain very in a short note these 5 rasas. So what is Shantarasa? Shantarasa is practice of devotion. He is fixed. He realizes Supreme Lord. There is attraction, practice of all standards. Perfect. But what's lacking? Service mentality. Because there's lacking service mentality, that kind of devotion is called Shantaras. Ras is exchange of loving relationship with the Supreme Lord. In Dashyarati is considered to be superior to Shantarati, because in Dashyarati, everything in Shantarati is present, but the service attitude is very, very prominent. So that is Dasyarati. You always want to practice, take up services for the pleasure of the Lord, for favor of the Lord, and they want to practice that. So that is Dasyarati. But what is lacking in Dasyarati? Intimacy is lacking. There's no intimacy in Dasyarati. So hence, the Sakyarati is considered to be superior to Dasyarati because it has all the qualities of Shantaras, it has all the qualities of Dasyaras, plus it has the quality of intimacy. That means in Sakyabhav, we are able to see the Lord on equality. Okay, we're able to see the Lord on equality and then practice that relationship with the Lord. However, the Vatsalyarati is considered to be higher platform than the Sakyarati. The reason is, what lacks in Sakyarati is the protectiveness. So in Vatsalyarati, all these qualities of Shant, Dasya, Sakya exist, but this protectiveness also exists. So what's the difference between Dasya and Vatsalya? In Dasya, we think, oh, we are lower than the Lord. Lord is supreme, we want to serve. In Sakya Bhav, what do we see? We see Lord on equality. In Vatsalya Rati, what we see? We see, oh, I am higher than the Lord, so I need to protect him. I need to take care of him. So like that, the devotee is thinking, exchanging that love, exchanging that rasa with the Lord in that bhav. But however, this Vatsalya Rati is on a lower platform compared to Madhurya Rati because Madhurya Rati has, or Vatsalya Rati lacks what is called as romantic love, exchange of love with the Lord. So that is fulfilled in Madhurya Rati. So this way, Mahaprabhu is going on explaining about different rasas and how these rasas are practiced in Goloka Vrindavan. So this devotee who's practicing this love of Godhead, when this bhakti creeper grows and he experiences love of, and then he will be able to exchange all these rasas according to his mood. So now Rupa Goswami is asking a question. Are these rasas same or different in Vrindavan or compared to other places? So Mahaprabhu is explaining these rasas exist in Vraj, but they also exist outside of Vraj also. But the difference is two. One, when it is present outside of Raj, it is more in the mood of awe and reverence. And second, when they see the Lord in a bewildered situation, they fall down to a lower rasa. Right? So an example is Rukmani. When Krishna jokingly said, "Now I want to leave you and go," oh, immediately what she said? She fell down at his feet and said, "No, no, no, please, accept me. I made a mistake. I didn't do this." So she just fell down at Krishna's feet and then pleaded. Right? So you see, even though she was in Madhurya Ras, for that instant she came to Dasya Ras. Right? So you'll see that mood. For example, Arjuna was in Sakya, but when Krishna showed his universal form, he took a lower position. He didn't take he went to Dasya Bhava. So like that, this is something that will happen as a phenomenon outside of Raj. But within Raj, the moods of devotees do not change under any circumstance. They don't get bewildered. So for example, we can take Sudama, right? So even though Krishna killed so many demons and easily capable of defeating Sudama, but what Sudama said, "Hey, you might have killed Agasura, I don't care, but I can defeat you in my wrestling match." And what he did, he fought with Krishna, he wrestled with him and he defeated him. Right? So that is the mood in Vraj. That's the mood of the rasa also. So for example, Srimati Radharani also, right? Krishna would play so many pastimes, and in a situation, Radharani would say, "Okay, now you carry me home. I don't want to walk." Right? So she's not seeing Krishna someone superior or anything like that. She's always in that romantic loving mood. It doesn't change at all under any situation. So this is what you will see as the mood difference between the rasas experienced in Vraj and outside of Vraj. And that's what Mahaprabhu explains, Rupa Goswami. So then it goes on. Mahaprabhu talks about Sthai Bhava, then he talks about Anubhava. So like that, he talks about following regulative principles. And then while after following regulative principles and application of devotion, how one experiences various emotions and bodily gestures. So like that, Mahaprabhu explains all those details to Rupa Goswami. So this is how Mahaprabhu takes his details to Rupa Goswami. Now, after explaining all these things, how many days they practiced? 10 days. After 10 days of practice, Mahaprabhu says, "Parapara shunya gabira bhakti rasa sindhu tomaya chakaita tarakahi eka bindu." He says, whatever explained you for 10 days, morning till evening, is only one drop. This is just a drop of what is known in the process of devotion. So you can estimate the length and breadth, and then you can see that the taste of this is unlimited. But what is the glory of Rupa Goswami? He took this one drop that was given by Mahaprabhu, and what did he write? He write Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu. That means he took that one drop of what is devotion, and he actually gave us an ocean of devotion to us. Right? So that's the glory of Rupa Goswami. So you can see that Yasha Prasada Bhagavat Prasado Yasha Prasada Nagati Kutopi. That means the devotion is so wonderful and it's unlimited, but we do not have the ability to experience it. By the mercy of the spiritual master, what are we able to do? We are able to get that devotion. And as we progress in our practices of devotion, through the mercy of spiritual master, we are able to absorb it and go to higher and higher states of practice. So if we remember these facts, our devotion will be in a steady state progress. And while we are making steady state progress in devotion, we will not offend any devotees. There are many stories of Vaishnava Parad. I'll just take one story just for our conclusion. For example, let's take the story of Sachimata offending Advaita Acharya. Mahaprabhu said that you'll never go back home because you offended Advaita Acharya. And what was the offense that she created? She said that my son Vishwarupa is going to become sannyasi. And how did he? He got inspired by going to the house of Advaita Acharya on a regular basis to learn from him. So she thought in her mind that in an offensive manner on Advaita Acharya because she's losing her son. And that Mahaprabhu said, it's an offense. So then she said, what's the solution? Please give me a solution. Then Mahaprabhu said, when Advaita comes to our house, through my potency, I'll be able to make him pay obeisances to me. He will pay obeisances to me. At that time, what do? You come from back, take the dust from his lotus feet, and apply it on your head. And repent for it, so that you don't make this mistake again. So when Sachimata did that, she got relieved. Similarly, we saw in Ambarish and Durvasa, the same thing happened. Just to narrate, we'll take the story of Gopala Chapala. This Gopala Chapala was actually a Brahmana in Navadip, and he was very envious of Srivas Thakur. And all these people, they were always making offenses by talking about what is happening in the house of Srivas Thakur. Every day there used to be nice Sankirtan, and then whole night the partying used to happen. So they made all sorts of comments, all comments that are unwanted and offended to the lotus feet of the Vaishnavas. In that manner, this Gopala Chapala became very envious, and then he made the biggest offense. What did he do? The night when everyone was asleep, he went and kept all the tantric elements and items and Durga Devi picture in front of the house of Srivas Thakur. So next day morning, when people got up and they saw, oh Srivas, I thought you were practicing worship of Lord Krishna, but we didn't know that you were doing this tantric worship, Durga worship, and all these things. When Srivas came out, he saw this. What did he do? He did not immediately say or defend or anything. He said, yes, I'm in a mode of tamaguna and I practice all these things. And he took the entire fault on his head. Just as a matter of time, Gopala Chapala got infected with serious case of leprosy. Just pus oozing out of every part of the body. Then when Mahaprabhu came onto the banks of Ganges one day, he fell at Mahaprabhu's feet and said, please help me. He said, no, you've offended my devotee, for which I will never forgive you. So this is called as a mad elephant offense. Your bhakti lata bija, the bhakti creeper, which grown so much after so much of effort and so many years of practice, is just one day completely uprooted. And millions of years, we may not get bhakti. So then he pleaded and pleaded Mahaprabhu. He said, okay, I can give you forgiveness. If Srivas Thakur forgives you, you may get a chance. So he went to the house of Srivas and then begged. Then Srivas immediately forgave him. He said, I didn't take the offense at all. So that relieved him, and then he got cured of his leprosy, and then he became a devotee of Mahaprabhu. So like that, there are many stories of Vaishnava Aparadh, which is very dangerous for us. So the conclusion is very simple. Practice of devotion must be done on a regular, steady state manner. That's why we're talking about the life of Rupa Goswami. After practice of bhakti, you're actually making progress in your life. While you're making progress in your life, you should not make mistakes, offensive, aparadh, not allow creepers to grow. This will completely harm your progress of practice of bhakti. So these two important things is important to learn. And when we guard ourselves and practice bhakti in a nice, simple manner, we see that in this very lifetime, we will receive the mercy of Mahaprabhu. Just like how Rupa Goswami got empowerment, you will get empowerment where you can preach Krishna bhakti to others. You can also practice devotion very wonderfully and make this journey of human life very meaningful. So that's the summary and key takeaway. I will end the conversation here. So let me know if you have any questions. Yes, Prabhuji. Yeah. Krishna. See, one is the ultimate truth about Lord Krishna, the truth about devotion service, then the various types of rasas that existing, then the depth of the conjugal love between Radha and Krishna. That's the fourth one. Mhm. Yes. So we have several examples of stones also grow, mountains also grow, right? In fact, the mountains used to even fly. Indra cut their wings and then the mountains stopped flying. But otherwise, we have seen several examples where Agastya Muni wanted to go to the south and then the Vindhya mountains were growing. So like that, mountains also grow. So it is not that they don't grow. Your best example is your Govardhan. He grew, now he is shrinking. So there are many examples to say how mountains grow. The conclusion of Shastra is everything in this creation is energy of the Lord. So misuse of that energy, not using them in service of Krishna, is not good. That's the point to understand here. So whatever we possess, we don't practice nirvana as in, okay, completely renounce myself from material elements. We don't practice that. What we practice whatever is given to us in this material world, right? Use in service of Krishna because it's an energy of the Lord. So that's the way to understand this point. Uh-huh. So one is Krishna Tattva. Krishna Tattva is to know about the ultimate truth of Krishna. The second Tattva is called the Bhakti Tattva, is to know about the details of the truth about the devotional services. And then third is the Rasa Tattva. The Rasa Tattva is all about understanding various rasas. And then the fourth Tattva is about knowing the conjugal love between Radha and Krishna. The details, the transcendental conjugal love between Radha and Krishna. Yes, Prabhuji. Yeah. So, if we go with the attitude that I will commit offense, the holy name will take care, it doesn't work. In fact, your offense becomes much deeper and larger. So that's the first change in our thought process we should have. Okay. The second, yes, there are chances that we may commit offenses knowingly or unknowingly in practice of devotion. So that's why principles of Vaishnava etiquette is being taught to us. What are the things to follow? Right? Now, when does this Vaishnava offense becomes very serious? Is when it done with dvesha, that is with enviness. When it done with malice intentions, that is when it becomes very serious. When a aparadh is done unknowingly, right? There are methods to wash your sins, wash your offenses. So those simple things can be followed. But when it is done knowingly, when it done in envious and malicious intention, that is when these aparadh becomes very intense. Okay. So the reason why you go take bath in the Ganges, the reason why you go to Punyasthala, the reason why you pour water to Tulasi every day, Brahma Hatyadi Kanicha, right? So why you do all these things is because there are several times that we may commit some mistakes without knowingly. So that's why we protect ourselves by doing these things. But we should never have the thought process, anyway, I'm doing these things, so it's okay to commit offense. That should never be in our consciousness. Okay.
Online, there is a question by Sankarshan Priya Prabhu. That Rupa Goswami was Rupa Manjari in Golok Vrindavan, intimately assisting Srimati Radharani. This means he is in platform of pure devotion and is pure devotee. How do we understand that the point that he understood pure devotion only after Shiksha from Mahaprabhu? Do we understand this as Leela to explain the pure devotion to all of us?
So, first of all, for Mahaprabhu to empower Rupa Goswami, it clearly tells his consciousness and his qualification, right? Mahaprabhu will not empower anyone and everyone. So it's not easy for everyone to get the mercy of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So the empowerment is a very important factor. The second, after empowerment, what happened? What was Rupa Goswami in the previous life, and after empowerment, what happens in his life? By reading his books, you can understand the depth of devotion explained by Rupa Goswami. It takes, for example, Rupa Goswami took several years. I forgot the number of years. Maybe I think he took like 11 years or 14 years something to complete Bhakti Rasamrita, right? If he was not empowered and if he's not realized with the conclusion of the Vedic scriptures, he will never be able to write such wonderful, glorious books. And even today, we are able to keep his books as reference for practice of devotion, and we're able to do it. So these things are very, very conclusive to understand the consciousness of Rupa Goswami. Now, third point, what do realized Acharyas comment? So many Acharyas who came after Rupa Goswami, they have taken his preachings and they have commented and concluded on his preachings, from which we are also learning. For example, Srila Prabhupada book of Srimad Bhagavatam. Srila Prabhupada has compiled Bhagavatam not just by his own literature, but also literatures and narrations and commentaries from various acharyas, which includes Rupa Goswami. So all these factors you can use to conclude that the position, the consciousness, and the understanding of Rupa Goswami was clear and perfect. Does that help with an answer? Did he say? I think. Okay. Yes, Prabhuji.
Thank you so much, Prabhu, for a wonderful class. It gave perfect understanding what is our position. My question is that uh, since by doing Shravanam and Kirtanam, which is like nurturing the creeper, so basically if we see that Shravanam and Kirtanam, it is giving us intelligence to how to grow into bhakti and get ahead, and the intelligence to make the distinction between wrong attitudes and right attitudes. So then how it is also nurturing the weeds also, which are unwanted.
So now today you can take association from any guru you want, correct? But what is important is to understand evam parampara praptim imam rajarsayu. That means you have to nurture from a guru who's coming from a bona fide parampara. Okay, so now bhakti in different forms is talked of in various cults, various gurus, various cults or groups of religious sects. But the point to understand is, are they coming from the bona fide parampara? Bona fide parampara, as spoken by Srimad Bhagavatam, is only 4 of them. So now when you're hearing from the bona fide parampara, then what happens is they give you the right message as to are you in this practice in the correct manner. So that itself is a big direction for us to carry out our devotion practice in the right manner. Right? So first is to hear from the right guru. Second, your association. What sort of association that you have? If you read Chaitanya Charitamrita, you may see many devotees who are followers of Mahaprabhu. They deviated at some point in time. They start associating with other cults and how they lost their direction. Right? So one is following the right parampara system and then following the right organization which implements that parampara system. So where you get the like-minded devotees and the devotees who practice bhakti in the correct manner. So both put together, right? You will be able to get the books which gives you the consciousness. So for example, you travel around the world in ISKCON today. Okay. What devotees speak, what they sing, their language, their Vaishnava etiquette, everything is same. Right? So you can see that you are into an organization which all speaks the same language. And what is this language? This is the language spoken by an Acharya who's representing bona fide descendants of Acharyas. Right? Whatever Vyasa wrote, whatever Lord spoke in the Bhagavad Gita is perfectly represented by these Acharyas. And you're part of an organization which is representing this in a very, very clear, transparent manner. So that is the conclusion for us that we are on the right path of devotion. If you go to a wrong path of devotion, just try going to another religious organization. Then see what they're preaching. You can see contradictions. Then you can understand, hey, I'm either associating with a wrong organization or I'm reading a wrong book. Even today, website. There's a zillion websites today. You go to one website and you will see deviation, then you can understand, hey, this is not what we want. You immediately close the website. So that is important to understand. Once you understand this is called environmental scan. Right? You need to be very much aware of your environment. Where are you part of? What are you reading? Who are your friends? What are they talking? Association of devotees. What is Guru speaking? Everything you will see, it will be pakka in sync. If there's a deviation, then you can consult. That's how you keep a tab on the whole thing. Does this help?
One more question that we saw how Rukmini Mataji was in the mood of awe and reverence there. So do this mean that any devotee who is not in Vrindavana, so he cannot get into that Madhurya rasa?
So that's not the way to understand this. So what is that Vraj and outside of Vraj means is practice of devotion in the mood of Vraj. Okay. Now, definitely sitting in Bangalore, you may not be able to have 100% of what is mode of Vraj is, but you can definitely create the mode of Vraj by practices of same worship of Tulasi Marani, by practicing Mangalarti, association of devotees, reading the same Srimad Bhagavatam. You may practice that mode of Raj here, if not in 100%, maybe 80-90%. That mode of Raj is important. Right? Here in Aishwarya Bhava means that you're not practicing mood of Raj, but you're practicing mood of awe and reverence. And hence, even though there is Madhurya Ras, even though there is, for example, Devaki, when she saw, Krishna, which is the Leela, she fell down. Okay, I don't remember the pastime. In one of the pastime, when Krishna shows his, special skills, Devaki fell down at Krishna's feet, forgetting that she is her mother. In the position of mother, she is to be protective and she has to think in a higher position than Krishna, but she took the role of Dasya. Right? So like that, you will see this is a mood that will be experienced by people who are in the association of awe and reverence. But people who are practicing association of devotees, who are all having the same mode of Raj, you'll be able to get 80% of what Rajdam mode is. So that means you're still in that same bhav. There's no difference. You may not get it 100%, but you will be there 70-80% in practicality. So if everyone has to go to Vrindavan, there's no space, right? Because there is equality. There are 5 billion people population in this world. All 5 billion go to Vraj, then there's no space in Vraj. So what's intelligence? It's to create the same mode of Vraj. Okay, the language we speak, prasadam that we consume, the dance, the scriptures that we read, devotion service that we practice, the deities, everything can manifest outside of Vraj also. That's what we do.
Thank you so much, Prabhu.
Yeah, thank you so much. Hare Krishna. Okay, thank you all so much. Wonderful questions. I hope I was able to give some clarity. Please forgive me if there are any offenses. Okay, thank you so much. Grandaraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Gurudev ki jai, Nitai Gaur Premanande. Vancha kalpatarubhyascha kripa sindhubhyevacha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda ki jai. Vaishnava Thakur Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Om Tat Sat.
The weed can grow.
Yeah.
When it happens, and why? Because actually we are watering the
श्री श्री जगन्नाथ बलदेव सुभद्रा माई की जय। प्रभुपाद की जय। जय श्री प्रभुपाद। Hare Krishna devotees, we will end the session now. We will end the Zoom session. We will meet again tomorrow at 8 a.m. From tomorrow, we will have